It's never easy in the world of QPR, is it? So much to discuss this week. Of course, we've got the embarrassing 7-1 defeat at Coventry to dissect before we look at this week's signings and then preview what I think we already have to bill a big home match against Charlton Athletic. Before all of that, though, I want to send our best wishes for a speedy recovery to Andy Sinton. I'm sure I speak for Dave, myself, and everybody watching when I say the commentary box isn't the same without him. Can't wait to have him back around QPR again. I know that Chris Guy has suggested singing his name or a minute's applause in the 11th minute, and I'd encourage everybody to get involved with that. And until then, best wishes, Andy, from all of us at Hoops and Dreams. And Dave, lots to go through, like I said. Hopefully, we've calmed down enough to not need the bleep machine, but 7-1 at Coventry. How would you sum up that before we delve a little bit deeper?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know where to start with it. I mean, we could dissect any area of the team from that game, but the score says it all, doesn't it? I mean, it was pathetic. You know, no one played well. No area of the team functioned as it should. It was rubbish, to be honest. But my hope is it might be a good thing that it actually wakes the club up a little bit. And we've been getting away with some pretty dreadful performances. I thought of Watford last week. We could have been 4-5 down at half time. We've ended up a narrow defeat, and it's not too bad. We've lost 6-0 in pre-season when really it could have been double that. Burnley beat us 5-0 at the end of last season. And I was having a look. This is not like just this season. If you go back to when we beat Derby 4-0 and we all thought we were going to get promoted, God, that feels like a long time ago. But we've had 17 games since, and I've worked out in 10 of those games, we've conceded 2 or more goals. Now, you're not going to win a football match if you're conceding 2 or more goals that often. And in those games, we've only scored more than 2 goals once. And, we all know we're not a prolific team. If you're giving up 2 goals a game, you're just not giving yourself a chance. And it's fine having all these exciting flair players and young players in the attack, but you're out of the game before they're even touching the ball. And it's just nowhere near good enough. And I just hope that scoreline, it's a very harsh scoreline. I hope that kind of woke the club up a bit, and they do seem to have reacted a bit this week. And hopefully, that's the low point, and we build from here.
Yeah, it was totally embarrassing. It's one of those matches where you start hearing from people you've not heard from for 6 months, having a laugh at QPR, sending you a message. But there's no excuses. You can maybe point out Coventry had 8 shots and scored 7 goals, but they eased off in the second half. It could have been double figures. I was genuinely worried about that at one point. And obviously, we haven't played professionally, but we've played and watched enough football to know that if you're 2-0 down after 20 minutes, 3-0 after 35 minutes, you change something. Sam Field maybe should come and sit in front of the defence and just not move, just to make us harder to play through. Jimmy Dunn, captain, Steve Cook, they needed to maybe order players about, even just for 10 minutes, like get us a foothold in the game. You just can't keep giving it away in your own half, doing the same goal kick routine over and over again, just asking for trouble. And Julian Stephan, Dave, he just wasn't proactive enough, was he?
He wasn't, but for me, I mean, he's still learning about the squad, and he's not. He's got a lot of players out injured, and a lot can't play a full game. But you're saying about the goal kicks there, it just seems to be the modern way of a lot of teams, especially in this division, where if Plan A doesn't work, we just do Plan A better. At some point, you've got to realise in the game, you're 2-0 down. Stop doing this. Try something different. It was taking 4 or 5 passes to get out of our own penalty area. I mean, that's ridiculous. And then as soon as we did get out, we lost it anyway, or we give a throw in away. Just vary the game. I'm not saying you've got to lump it long, go back to Gareth Ainsworth style football, but just, like you say, understand where the game is. The manager should be doing that, but also the players. There's a lot of senior players on that pitch. Steve Cook, Sam Field, Jimmy Dunn. They should be grabbing hold of it. They shouldn't be waiting for the manager to tell them. They should be, sorting out. All right, 2-0 down. You've probably lost the game. Don't get battered. Try and stay in the game and get one back later. What they did was unforgivable. Really, it was really poor.
Yeah, it was. Again, it's like you're 5-0 down at half time. The message surely from the manager, the senior players was just don't concede early in the second half. Just even if you have to take a 5-0 defeat, at least it then doesn't make all the headlines. Of course, we go out, concede straight away, and we needed grit and determination. I'm not sure what the manager was doing, bringing on Madsen, not particularly against Nicholas Madsen, but we all know he's not the player you would bring on and you're 5-0 down. You felt sorry for Adamson as well, getting thrown on out of position. That was maybe questionable, just sending him on to kind of like run around. And Coventry just exposed every weakness in the QPR team right now, didn't they? It was a bit like the Plymouth game. It was men against boys, even though it was our senior team. They were winning every second ball, just running past us. There was nobody tracking runners. That's what's unacceptable. one of the goals Sam Field was beaten in the air, and then he's just left on the floor as they just literally overpowered him and the team. And wouldn't you love to watch that Coventry side every week though? Power, strength, pace, aggression. They look a good bet this season, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, they've been a good side for a couple of years. They've been in and around it, but they look really good this year. I mean, the signing they made in the middle of the park, that Matt Grimes, they got, I think it was earlier this year. He's really helped them, and God, we could do with someone like him who can just dictate play from the middle of the park. They look really good, and you looked at what they had on the bench. I mean, it was probably better than what we had starting the game. And they not even playing. They look a good bet, but let's be honest, we made it quite easy for them, didn't we? It'd be interesting to see how good they are over the next couple of months. I don't think they're going to play a side that gifts it to them as easy as we did.
Yeah, and hopefully QPR don't do it to anyone else either. But I was
Yeah,
honestly jealous of what Coventry offered up. They were exciting to watch. They even gave away twice as many fouls as us. They just seem to want it more. And that's another level of frustration for me because even if you're inferior, make it hard for the other team. We had one booking. I kind of wanted one of those matches where you want a QPR player to just come out
yeah.
and kick somebody, show a bit of anger. If you look back when we concede, there's the odd shout or flailing arm, but most of the players are just like messing with the socks or going to kick off again. It was kind of far too accepting of what was happening. Hopefully, though, it is the last time we're having to talk about a defeat like that this season. The consequence of it, the whole week, especially on Saturday night and Sunday, QPR fans up in arms about Julian Stephan. I've seen tens, if not hundreds, of posts saying sack the manager, French this and that. Is he under pressure already?
I mean, yeah, he probably is under pressure already. It seems a bit ridiculous. It's similar to when Steve McLaren come in and he got a few hide-ins in the first few weeks, and he was under pressure. I mean, he shouldn't be under pressure. As I said earlier, it does go back to last season when we had a manager we all liked in Cifuentes. We had similar performances under him last year. It's pretty much the same players as well. Um, I think he needs some time, but he needs a win, doesn't he? There's make no bones about it. The quicker he gets that first win, it will calm things down a bit, and things will look a lot better. But he is under pressure. There's no doubt.
Yeah, he is. It's just the modern game, isn't it? But I think it's far too early to make a judgment. He gets like look at this weekend. He got Jimmy Dunn back, but he lost Ilias Chair. He had Poku for
Yeah,
one game. Kone hasn't started yet. No senior left back. That's not his fault. Don't get me wrong. There's obviously a few alarm bells ringing with how he set the team up and
yeah.
the way he didn't react to things that happened in the game. But like you said, first thing you said, it's a big wake up call, hopefully, for Julian Stephan, the players, Christian Nori, and everyone about what needs to be done. And in Julian Stephan's defense, what we have to raise here is that it's not his side, really, is it? He is very much head coach, way more than we've seen at QPR before, way more than Marty Cifuentes was. Christian Nori, he's in control, total control, isn't he? This is his team, his game model, as they keep saying. Nori, it's his choices that have got us to this position in a way.
Yeah, I mean, he's running the club completely now, isn't he? You look at all the key staff at the club. He's brought basically all of them in. Ben Williams. You look at like the coaching stuff. Steve Bold is his manager. There was they was advertising for a set piece coach in the summer, and it said that they report into Christian Nuri, not into the manager. So it shows he's the one in charge. Andy Belk was here before him, who runs the recruitment team, but he's been given probably more power than any recruitment team have had. That they're doing all the signings. I don't think they've had a bad window, to be perfectly honest. I mean, you look at what they've sort of done quite well, but whether they can get these players to play in this game model that Christian Nuri wants them to do is another thing. I kind of get what he's trying to do with it and have all the teams throughout play the same way, and then the idea is you play a Premier League style of football, playing out from the back, your Guardiola style, and then you can sell them on to Premier League sides because they're playing that way already. But you start watching a bit of Premier League so far, and there's not many teams playing like that now. It's only Man City now. It's a lot of set pieces, a lot of physicality, and the game changes so quickly. I don't think you can have one set way and that's it. You've got to be a lot more adaptable, and that's what we need to be as a club. It can't just be one way and that's it. That's kind of the one thing I think Nuri's going to need to do over the next few months. Be a lot more flexible, and you know, really, he's got to let the manager manage the first team. I don't know how much say he has over things. There's question marks over a few things I've seen so far, but it needs to be Julian Stephan's team, doesn't it? And you live or die by. You're saying he's under pressure. It's got to be him who makes all the decisions.
Yeah, we've seen no Julian Stephan signings, have we? Like even under Marty, we got Lucas Anderson, Paul Nardi that they had Marquis' fingerprints on. There's been nothing like that with Julian Stephan. Not one player maybe we expected from a French league or we'd worked with before. Maybe that would have helped him if the club had done that, but don't think we're going to see it. And we literally said in the first show when Marty Cifuentes was put on gardening leave, it's Christian Noy who needs this change to go well.
Yeah.
Hopefully it still can, but he needs it to turn around quickly, doesn't he? As does Julian Stephan, but we know it can turn around. The signings that we've made this week, we're going to discuss them shortly. They'll help. It's obviously we lost 7-1, but the same thing happened at West Brom, didn't it? 2018, ironically,
Yeah.
the third match of the season. That season, I think we were actually pointless after 4 games. We still turned it around. There's 43 games left, 129 points to play for. Far too early to write the season and the manager off. This is QPR as well, don't forget. We've been top in October and nearly relegated. We've been bottom in November and the verge of the playoffs by January last year. So Julian Stephan, he kept saying after Coventry that Charlton will be very, very different. And let's hope he is right because it's Charlton we are welcoming to Loftus Road on Saturday. Not a side we've met oddly in the last, much oddly, so to say, in the last 25 years. Just 11 meetings in that time. Over the last 5 years, it's been over 5 years since the last league meeting behind closed doors, that was. In true QPR style, we've only had one win in the last 6, which I seem to say every single week. Charlton lost in the cup to Cambridge in midweek, but they went down to like the development squad, kind of like QPR did. So they started the season well in the league, though. They don't look like they're going to struggle at the bottom, do they? Do
No, they've started quite well. They've got a good manager, who's used to this sort of thing. He's done a great job at Luton, and Charlton's probably a similar sort of club. You'll get a bit of togetherness there. And, you look at some of the signings they've made and how they've played. They look all right for a championship side. They probably should have beat Leicester last week. They were really dangerous from set pieces. So I think they'll probably be fine. Yeah, a difficult game to play. Nathan Jones is not a big fan of QPR, is he? We do seem to wind him up, and he gets quite angry against us. So he's going to be desperate to put us under pressure again. So yeah, it won't be an easy game, but they are, realistically one of the sides you'd expect to be in the bottom half this season. We're at home to them, so you've got to be, even after last week's result, you've got to be looking to try and get 3 points there.
Yeah, I watched them against Leicester last week and was actually really impressed. They should have, like you said, they should have won by a few, never mind lost. Really high intensity play, always a player engaging whoever has the ball right in your face, aggressive, trying to intercept. They then break with purpose and energy when they have the ball. The possession and pass accuracy stats are lower in the league rankings, but good to watch whenever they got on the ball. And honestly, even before I saw us against Coventry, I had alarm bells ringing for me how Charlton set up. We're going to struggle if they do sit back, let us have the ball, and then break on us, aren't we?
Yeah, definitely. It's something we've struggled against for quite a long time. We see more danger to ourselves when we've got the ball, don't we? But yeah, in the end, you've kind of, unless we're going to make any more signings this week, you'd think with the midfield they're likely to have, they're not the best on the ball. They're more like a defensive midfield, haven't we? We've got at the minute, but I think it's going to be one of them ugly games, isn't it? Rangers desperate to get a result. We've had a bad start. They're going to be trying to be niggly and stop us playing. There's also Charlie Kelman as well. We should probably mention him. He hasn't scored yet, which is terrifying, and he'll be desperate to do well against us, won't he?
Yeah. Charlie Kelman. That's actually went on the Charlton forum. They've actually got a thread entitled "How do we get Kelman more involved?" So already they're seeing that kind of what we discussed through the summer. He's a tricky player to fit into your team. We even
Yeah.
talked about it when we were saying would he stay or not. He's no guarantee, and he's not scored. You don't think he's going to start though, but you kind of feel like the headlines could be written if he does step onto the pitch and the game's level or something like that. But yeah, I think we're likely to have more possession. We raised it last week that we struggle when we have more possession. We're struggling to break teams down. It's probably why we've not won at home since Valentine's Day. You actually touched on it before, but that Derby 4-0 win. Since then, 7 home games, 3 defeats, 4 draws. They're going to be tough match, I think, for us on Saturday. And let's just hope it's not Charity Park Rangers with Charlie Kelman scoring in the last minute. For QPR, there are some positives. We've probably sounded absolutely depressed up to this point, but it always changes quickly in the world of QPR. And on Bank Holiday Monday, we had 3 signings, and we'll go through them in turn. First up, it was Isaac Hayden. We've all been calling for it. Thankfully, the club listened, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Jack Cole back going, he's a player they kind of needed to bring in. It just brings a bit more depth to the squad. He was good for us on loan. I think he's a good player. He's not always he's 30. He's still got plenty of years left in him. I think, you know, he's one of those good senior pros you can have in the team that can kind of lead by example. I think he's a good signing. I don't think he fixes a lot of the problems we have in midfield. In that, when we're trying to play possession based, we can get up the pitch for someone who's got a bit of vision and can play a pass forward. But what he can do is he can protect the defence a bit better than we are at the minute. So I think that's a good signing. On a free transfer, we said it last week. It was a no-brainer. They had to do it, really.
Yeah, Saturday's performance probably helped Isaac Hayden get an extra digit on
Yeah,
his wage, didn't it? But it's a deal we probably should have done a month ago. So he was here ready for the start of the season. Probably even 12 months ago we should have done it. But the midfielder looks stronger with him there. He's going to sit, give players in front of him and around him the confidence to progress up the pitch. And his passing stats, I had to look back because everyone keeps saying he doesn't progress the ball well. And I had that impression myself. But when he was here 23, 24, he was only second to Jack Colback for pass accuracy at about 87%. That would have topped QPR's charts the 2 seasons before that. So he doesn't give it away often. He'll help us keep the ball. He'll help us win the ball. So I'm not as concerned as that as some. I think he's a great signing when he's up to speed, and hopefully he is up to speed soon. Koki Saito next, signed permanently for a rumoured 2.8 million fee. Is he worth that for you?
yeah. I mean, he's expensive for what he is. I mean, I do like him. I thought he was good on loan last year. Um, you look at his numbers, like goals and assists for not just last year, but throughout his career, they're not amazing. So I don't know, for that money, you kind of want a bit more. But look, he's another one, and there's kind of a theme with who we've signed this summer. He knows the league, or he knows QPR because he was here last year, so he knows what he's coming into, and you'd think he probably will progress and be better in the second season. Whether defenders adapt to him and make it harder for him, I imagine they'll try to, but you know, again, I think he's expensive, but he improves the squad. Again, already we've got Chair missing, and you're looking at, well, who's going to play on the left? You've got options now, so hopefully he's going to turn into a good signing.
Yeah, do you know, I've got on my notes here. Does he improve QPR? Yes. But having watched us struggle against powerful physical teams, I wonder if we need to address that. And maybe we still will. I'm all
Yeah,
for assigning Koki Saito as an individual player, but for me, it's a question mark whether we'd have been better served to look at alternative attributes, because Saito, he is similar to Chair, Poku, Dembele, Smith, small, diminutive attacking players. Maybe it's going to work for us. And there's no, like I say, there's no doubting he improves QPR. And a guy, Lopine, on our forum made a very valid point. It's got to be positive that players like Koki Saito, Isaac Hayden are so keen to return to QPR after the
yeah,
loans. We may be losing 7-1 on the pitch, but it's not put them off. Something is still right off the pitch, at least for QPR, because they all seem to love the place, which is good. The newbie is the third signing, Reece Norrington Davis. Must be up there for the longest surname in QPR history, but biggest positive is the most match fit of the three signings, ready to go. So we're now moving on to talking about the lineup. Do you expect him to play at the back straight away, and who'll be joining him?
yeah. I mean, I would have thought so. I think he'll probably start left back. He's coming in as kind of the replacement for Morgan Fox, and he can play centre half as well. But I think he'll definitely start a left back. Escudina looks promising, but I think you want to go with this is a big game. You want to go with a more senior one. Um, Other changes, I mean, you assume Jimmy Dunn will play, but again, it depends on fitness. You looked at the team on paper last week; it wasn't a terrible team. You wouldn't, go on, what are they doing? Um, maybe Mbenge come back in. I don't quite know why he's been left out the last few games, but uh, I would have thought Morrison and Dunn will both start.
Yeah, Norrington Davis, he's played on the opening day. He knows the league. So a few years ago, he was a hot prospect, I think, but his injuries have hindered him. So hopefully it's a big loan for him. He needs to prove he's still got it, I think. So I'd expect him to come straight in. And Benge surely has to start ahead of Cook. Like you say, maybe there's a reason he didn't start last week, but Steve Cook has had a slow start to the season, to say it kindly. I think it would be Dunn, Morrison, and Benge and Norrington Davis. Behind the defence, it's a big question mark again. Joe Walsh, he's dominated the comments all season, and conceding 7 hasn't really helped that. Does he keep his place, you think?
It's a really tough one. I mean, I'd be interested to know who made this call to make Joe Walsh number one. Has it come from the club, from people behind the scenes, or the manager? I kind of get the idea that he's a young, promising keeper, and you give him your chance, but he's not got a lot of EFL experience, as he hasn't played a lot of games, and he struggled in pre-season, and he just looks a nervous wreck. I really feel for him. I don't see how you can play him at the weekend. You've got to bring Nardi back, but even with Nardi, you've got a problem there, the same as we did with Kenneth Powell last year. We spent the whole summer telling him we don't want him. and getting rid of him, and then the window's shut, and then actually we need you as first choice goalkeeper again. It's not ideal. So I imagine Nardi will come back in, but I do feel for Joe Walsh. I just don't think he's ready yet, to be honest.
Yeah, it does. We've had so many comments saying it should have been Murphy Cooper this season. He'd had a loan,
I
he was
agree. Yeah.
ready. Joe Walsh should have been the one going out on loan. But I think there was talk even before Julian Stephan came in that Joe Walsh was going to come in this season. So it does seem like it's a club decision. The reason I think it could still be Joe Walsh this weekend is if they change it, how does Joe Walsh ever come back into the side?
Yeah.
If you take him out, he's staying out, isn't he? Probably for the season. And I do feel sorry for him if that's the case. But there is just genuine nervousness at the back from the defenders around him, from him himself, especially when he's passing it out. And Julian Stephan, I said it before, he said Charlton would be very different. That is something that he can change quickly and say, look, I did make a change this weekend. So definitely one for the comments, what you think he's going to do there. In midfield, Hayden and Saito, almost certainly they're going to be on the bench at best. But as we've discussed, it was a disaster in midfield last week. We were just getting overrun. Ilias Chair as well, the latest injury concern. How do you see the five lining up in midfield? And have you heard anything on Ilias Chair?
Uh, from the open day the other day, they said it wasn't serious, but they say that about all the injuries, so who knows how long he'll be out for. Um, it's a difficult one. If Hayden's anywhere near fit, I'd start him. We've just signed him. You'd put him in there, but you'd think he probably isn't yet, and they do like to take their time with people. So I think he'll probably be Varane and Field in there again. Um, both were poor last week, but we know they can play a lot better. And really, your options for the third one is it's probably going to be Madsen again. You would have thought. I don't think it's ideal, but he's probably better at home. That you can get on the front foot a bit more with him at home, and maybe they've got to try and get him on the ball in the opposition's half. Where he can cause some damage. So I imagine that's what they'll go with. And then, I mean, who they go with out wide? I mean, it won't be a popular choice, but I think for these sort of game, Paul Smith's probably one. He's just going to run around and cause problems, and he's going to give it everything. He's got a long throw, and in what's going to be like a tight, ugly game, he'll probably be involved. And then Ballet on the other side. I don't know which way they'll do it, but I think that's probably the way they'll go. But again, the issues with the injuries and fitness, we said this last week, they need to get more players fit and available because it is the team picks itself really because that's all that's available at the minute.
Yeah, there are a lack of options in that area until everyone gets back up to speed and get back to some fitness. I think it'll be Field, Varane, Smith and Dembele out wide, and then maybe Madsen in for Morgan in the middle. Then Bailey as well. I've got to say, I put a stat up on Twitter that's been done the rounds today, that's for sure. He's been on the winning side just 4 times in his 26 league appearances. I updated a spreadsheet, spotted that he hadn't won a league game yet at Loftus Road, and I couldn't believe it. So I posted the stat. That was it. I think Dembele is a talented player, but it feels like we need to build the whole team around him. And I don't think he's that good to warrant it. People can slag me off for the stat, blame Paul Smith, Sam Field, whatever. The simple fact was QPR is struggling to win games of football when Dembele plays. Trust me, I hope this is his first home win against Charlton on Saturday, and then it's gone to bed anyway. Up front, Kone to start, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think, he's got a bit more physicality about him. I think it would probably make sense to start him and then bring Burrell on for the last half hour or so. He was probably the only positive of last week that he got his first goal, wasn't he, at the last minute? I think he needs to start. I mean, I don't know why they're going slow with him. I mean, he had a pre-season and he played for Wycombe on the first game, so I don't know what the issue is why he hasn't played more so far. But they've got 2 weeks off after this. They need a result. He's the big new signing. They've got to play him.
Yeah, I was about to say, 2 weeks off. He's got to just do as many minutes as he can. Ball on the bench. Hopefully, if Charlton have got tired legs by that point, hopefully that can be the way round. Won't be Jan Seller. If you've missed that news, he's gone off to Fortuna Dusseldorf on loan with a view to a permanent deal. Before your predictions, are you believing any of the Ronnie Edwards rumours?
I do think we've got a chance of getting him. I know he's not hugely happy at Southampton and it's not going that well for him. And I don't know if it'll be a loan with an option to buy, that sort of thing. But I do think there's some legs in it. And I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back. And if he does, that'll be a hell of a signing if we can pull it off because we saw how good he was last year. And I do think that's a player that who can bring the ball out of defence. That can maybe fix a lot of the problems we've got in midfield. We can play a little bit higher up. that would be a very good signing. So fingers crossed that happens.
Yeah, some of it maybe comes down to how well the club know Jake Clark-Salter's going to come back. If they think he's going to be back next month, do they need to sign Ronnie Edwards? Because then you've got Mbenge, Clark-Salter, Morris, Cook. But if we know Clark-Salter's out for a length of time, Ronnie Edwards obviously would be superb. I'm 100% behind us trying to bring him in. I know we have the Aberi Eze money now, but I think deep down, I think it just feels very unlikely to me that he can actually make it happen. But I'm sure we'd all love to see him. And then just predictions to finish. It can't be 7-1 again, can it?
No, I really hope not. I mean, I think you'll definitely see a reaction. I think from what Julian was saying last week, I think it's got to be in terms of performance. It needs to be a lot more on the front foot, a lot more aggressive. Don't make it so easy for the opposition. I think we'll bounce back. I think we'll get a win. I think it'll be tight, maybe like 2-1, something like that. But I think we'll bounce back and get a first win on Saturday.
Yeah, I do worry if Charlton score first, since the home crowd could explode after last week. It's going to be a tense afternoon if they do. And I'll say again, for anyone who hasn't seen Charlton and is just viewing them as like a newly promoted side, if they're on it, we're going to have our work cut out. High energy, they're going to press us. It's going to be hard. Need to have they hope an off day, how they have an off day, and we can improve tenfold. But I think from where QPR last week, we're going to see a reaction. I can't see us losing the game, hopefully. Maybe a draw 2-1. I think I would go for like you if we can turn up, perform, and every single QPR player is ready to put in a reaction performance from last week. And wow, what a show for us to be having 3 weeks into a season. Do comment, as always, of your views, your predictions, your rants, your views on the signings. We want to hear them. And that's it for the first month of the season now. For us, done. Brian will be here during the international break with a Rangers roundup. And then Dave and I will return in a fortnight to preview the trip to Wales, as we head to big spend in Wrexham. Until then, let's hope the mood around the club has indeed lifted by Saturday afternoon. Thank you so much for watching. Best wishes again to Andy Sinton, and come on, you Rs.